In the modern society, we have taxes on almost everything. We have taxes on properties, cars, personal income, and the list goes on. Libertarians have long fought against these taxes. However, the thing is, there are also several other ideologies who fight for the very opposite, namely an increase in taxes. And in the modern society, when 50% of people want something and the other half want something else, then we usually end up in a stalemate. Well, one party might gain a majority during one election, they might be able to pass certain laws. However, these laws are usually just overturned as soon as this party loses their majority. So in this video, we're actually going to take a look at how to really get something implemented and how libertarians can really succeed in getting taxes reduced. See, the thing is that in life, if you want something, you have to give something in return. In this case, libertarians will have to give socialists something before socialists will be willing to accept a reduction in taxes. But what could libertarians possibly give socialists before they are willing to accept something like that? Well, perhaps libertarians could find a tax that they would be willing to accept an increase in. But what tax would that be? See, generally, there's nothing fair about taxes. There's nothing fair about someone going to work, earning an income, and then you or the state taking part of that income. There's also nothing fair about property taxes, for example. The fact that you decide to renovate your house going up in value, and then suddenly you having to pay more money to the government because you renovated your house. See, finding a tax that libertarians could actually accept an increase in, that's going to be very difficult because almost all taxes, they do interfere with our freedom. And there's also the economic aspect of it. Usually taxes, they're not really efficient as such. Again, going back to property tax, for example, if we have a high property tax, then people will not want to build buildings. They don't want to renovate buildings because all that's going to mean is that they just have to pay more taxes. So here's the question, is there any tax that libertarians could actually accept? There might actually be one particular tax that libertarians could accept an increase in. This is a tax that is only implemented in just a few countries in the entire world. But it's also a tax that has been advocated by one of the biggest free market economists, Milton Friedman. He called this tax the least bad tax. And it has also gained a lot of popularity lately on several libertarian forums. So what is this tax? It's actually land value taxes. And you might be asking straight away, why would land value taxes be any different from the other taxes? If we cannot justify taking people's income, well, how can we then justify taking money from landowners? So why did Milton Friedman believe that land value taxes are any different from the other taxes? Why did he call this the least bad tax? Most libertarians oppose taxes for two reasons. One reason has to do with an economic standpoint, namely that most taxes are inefficient. The other thing has to do with fairness. How can you ever justify to take someone's hard-earned money? Well, let's take a look at land value taxes compared to a couple of other taxes and see how land value taxes ranks in terms of fairness and in terms of economic efficiency. So to start with, let's look at property tax. Most people see property tax and land value tax as the very same, but this could not be further from the truth. These two taxes are so different. Let's take a look at property tax. So let's say that someone owns a piece of land. If you have a high property tax, you decide to build a structure, build a building on this piece of land, then suddenly you have to pay a tax. Why? Why is that any of your business or the state's business whether or not someone decides to build a house or not on their land? Why should should they suddenly be taxed if they build a building? And another example, let's say that someone owns a house and they decide to renovate their kitchen. Well, because of the renovation, the property will go up in value, and because of the property tax, these people suddenly have to pay more tax. Why? Again, how can you justify that when someone is renovating their kitchen that they have to pay more tax? How is that fair? So property tax is certainly not fair, and it is certainly not efficient, because property tax is actually discouraging people from renovating their kitchen. It is discouraging people from building buildings and utilizing their land, because if they do so, if they actually build buildings, then they will just be taxed even more. But land value taxes, they actually work the very opposite way. So if we have a high tax on land, then someone will be very encouraged to utilize their land as efficiently as possible because of the tax. Because if they don't utilize their land, then they will have a loss because of the tax. So either they will use the land, build buildings on it in order to get money in return, or alternatively they will have to sell their land to someone else who can use the land more than they can. So land value taxes, you can certainly argue that they are economically efficient, but are they also fair? Well, let's compare them to another tax. So let us compare land value taxes to another very well-known tax, namely income tax. Most libertarians would probably agree that there's nothing fair about income tax. People should of course have the right to keep the wealth that they have created themselves. And why should this be any different when it comes to land? Well, I would also argue that land value taxes could actually be seen as a fair tax. See, the thing is, shouldn't the city also be allowed to keep the wealth that it has created itself? Now, what do I mean by this? Well, the thing is, when land goes up in value, it is usually because of all the things that's happening around the land. So, for example, if you own a piece of land and the city decides to build a train station close to your land, then your land will go up in value. But the land is not going up in value because of something that you have done. It's going up in value because of something the city has paid for. And therefore I would argue that it's actually fair that the city is able to take part of the wealth that it has created itself. So these are actually the two reasons why Milton Friedman called land value taxes the least bad tax. It's because, first of all, you can certainly argue that it is economically efficient, and you can also argue why it is fair. So land value taxes might have some very good properties when it comes to economic efficiency and when it comes to fairness. But the real reason why libertarians should be so excited about this tax is because land value taxes are the key to getting all the other taxes reduced. This is the way that we can actually go out in practice and find an argument for how we can get all the other taxes lowered. So if you want to learn more about land value taxes, we have a lot of other videos on this topic. And if there are other economic topics you want us to cover, then comment in the comment section down below. And be sure to subscribe, because we produce a lot of videos on libertarianism, Georgism, land value taxes, etc.